Strange but true stories. Tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White.
Are we alone in the universe? For thousands of years, there have been tales of lights in the sky, wars in the heavens, and rumors of communication with extraterrestrial beings. Depictions of alien-like creatures can be found on the cave walls that date back over 3,000 years. There has even been strange tales of alien abductions and cattle mutilations that seem to only increase over time. Are the governments of the world keeping this information under wraps? Here are a few people that say exactly that.
He says he will no longer hide the truth. Bob Lazar claims our government captured alien spaceships, UFOs, and keeps them in a secret warehouse. And that's not all. Bob says Uncle Sam hired him to figure out how they fly. If you're skeptical, you have plenty of company. Lazar has been questioned and criticized. He even had to take a lie detector test, and that's when some people started believing him. Dan Housley has the inside report. The man who wants to blow the lid off what could be the greatest story never told, and the people who seem to be trying to stop him.
Strange lights over Las Vegas, within view of tourists and gamblers along the city's Casino Row. What are the odds these are alien spacecraft out for an evening spin? Or would you bet they're simply standard aircraft, or worse yet, some kind of hoax? Before you decide, take a look at another shot on this home video, where what does appear to be an aircraft strays into view along with the lights. Strange things like this have been appearing over the Nevada desert for years. Not too many people live out here in the remote sections of the Nevada desert, far from the lights of Las Vegas. But here, on the edge of the secret U.S. government test facilities, people have been seeing strange things for years. Some of them talk about it, a lot of them don't. But no one who has actually worked on the test site has ever talked about what goes on there. No one, that is, until now.
They are actively and have in their possession alien spacecraft, and they are actively undergoing analysis.
And flying them?
And flying them.
Bob Lazar is an engineer and physicist who says he worked on flying saucers for the U.S. government at Area 51. He drew these sketches of one of 9 different saucers he says the government has in a secret warehouse. Lazar gave the saucers each names according to their various shapes. Top Hat, the Sport Model, the Jello Mold. Called in to help figure out how they work, Lazar says the saucers are powered by an antimatter generator.
They set up and produce their own gravitational field. Just as the Earth holds all matter down, they produce that same field, but out of phase, and it repels itself. The effects that can cause, the way in which everything operates is by all intents and purposes magic. I mean, it is so far beyond our level of technology.
The late great astrophysicist Stephen Hawking believed with more than 100 billion stars in our galaxy, the odds are pretty good that aliens exist. And he's not alone. Every day, people across Canada report seeing a UFO. And while most can be identified, as CTV's Janet Dirks reports, some things just can't be explained.
I got it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
What the hell?
That strange light in the sky is one of 1,100 UFO sightings in Canada last year. According to the annual survey released by Ufology Research of Manitoba, there are at least 3 such sightings in the country every day.
UFO reports are still a thing. People are reporting them in greater and greater numbers every year.
Montreal is Canada's UFO capital, with 74 sightings reported last year, followed by Toronto, then Vancouver. It's not that these cities are on an extraterrestrial highway. It's a matter of population, says the report's author.
If a tree's falling in the forest, you need somebody to hear it. So if there's a UFO in the sky, the more people around to see it, the more reports you get.
None of the sightings matched the drama of the X-Files.
The truth is out there.
But something was out there, according to 10 campers in Quebec who reported a triangular object that hovered and then flew off. One of them drew the scene. In Oshawa, a wildlife photographer captured an odd-shaped disc in the sky. This scientist says people should be critical, but still open-minded.
There's a few that really just get me scratching my head saying, what could it have been?
The survey says of the 1,100 sightings, only 8% are unexplained, and that can be whittled down to 1% of so-called high-quality unknowns.
In fact, none of these cases, shout that aliens are here. But what they do say is that people are reporting things, and maybe science should take a closer look at some of them.
Since the survey began nearly 30 years ago, more than 19,000 Canadians have reported seeing something strange in the sky. That makes them think we're not alone.
Pilots in two different planes, one a Learjet, the other an American Airlines jet, reported seeing a mysterious object over Arizona last month, we have learned. The exchange with air traffic control sounded like something out of the Twilight Zone.
Number 71 Papa Golf, go ahead.
And there was anybody above us that passed us like 30 seconds ago?
Number 71 Papa Golf, negative.
Okay. Something. A UFO. Yeah. Hey, it's American 1095. Yeah, something just passed over us. Don't know what it was, but it's at least 2,000-3,000 feet above us. So yeah, it passed right over the top of us.
No one has figured out what it was. Other pilots did say they saw nothing. There's a new video this morning that some say may be proof we're not alone in the universe. A UFO in the form of a bright light is seen descending over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The video is said to be taken over the weekend. Then suddenly the light shoots up into the sky. There you see it. Another video from a different angle appears to show the light doing the same thing. Those clips have gone viral now.
UFO sightings around the world have reached an all-time high. According to data from the National UFO Reporting Center, UFO sightings experienced a boom in the 1980s. Reported sightings went from less than 5,000 in 1980 to about 10,000 in 1990. But between 1990 and 2000, sightings rose by nearly 30,000. In those 10 years, more than 45,000 sightings were recorded, a record. And it appears the spike in UFO sightings was not an anomaly, but a trend. In an 8-year period from 2002 to 2009, more than 36,000 UFOs were reported. Since then, more than 11,000 more UFOs were reported, with more than 47,000 being cataloged since 2010. Statistician and PhD candidate Sam Montfort brought this information to light. With the collection of data from the reporting center, Montfort found that individuals are far more likely to spot a UFO in the US than anywhere else in the world. He reports that on average, there are 2,500 sightings reported per 10 million people. That's 300 times higher than the global median. Northwestern and northeastern states have filed the most reports citing per capita. Perhaps with 7 new known planets in the universe, we could experience even more close encounters in the future.
Stories of UFO sightings and alien abductions date back centuries. And unless President Trump declassifies the Area 51 files, rumors of aliens and the men in black who protect us will always remain. But my next guest says the rumors are true because he says he was abducted by aliens 45 years ago. Calvin Parker joins me now. All right, so Calvin, just so I understand this and we'll make it easy for the audience to understand, you claim you were abducted when you were with a friend 45 years ago, and now that your friend has unfortunately passed away, you feel comfortable sharing it because he didn't want to really go too public with it. But let's start from the beginning. You were walking where and what happened?
We were fishing. We actually got off work in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and was fishing at the old Shaw Peter shipyard. And that's where something come in from behind us. And I'm not for sure if it was aliens or what it was, but I'm just assuming it was. And they landed behind us, and 3 of them got out and took, 2 of them got a hold of Charlie, and 1 got a hold of myself.
Okay,
and
1
took
second.
us aboard.
Okay. So when they were coming down, what were they in? Were they in some sort of spacecraft?
Well, no, I was facing the river, and we just seen some lights behind us. So when we turned around, the light got so bright, and they was already there. We didn't even hear them land. They was probably the length of a football field behind us.
So what did they look like when they came into your line of vision?
Well, they had kind of gray wrinkled skin like a elephant or a manatee or something. And then when we got on board, one looked a little, you know, a little more like a human than an elephant like that, but kind of female-looking creature.
Okay, so maybe a female alien. And then what did they do to you when they took you up in space or wherever they took you?
Well, when I was aboard the ship, the female reached and run her finger down my throat and tried to mess with my nasal cavity, looked in my nose, and there was something that come out of the ceiling, and it just clicked about 4 times, and I figured it was like an X-ray or something, whatever they used. And they went back up in the ceiling. Then she summons the old big ugly one that come got me, and he took me back outside and set me down at the river.
Okay. Were you terrified? How did you feel when you were being, I wouldn't, maybe probed is the wrong word, but examined by the female alien?
I was scared. I was naturally afraid, and I think they give us an ejection, though, of some kind when they got us, and that's what we assumed when we got to the hospital the next day. Then they took us to Keesler to check us for radiation.
And you say you passed a polygraph test, is that true?
I did a polygraph, a voice stress test.
Wow.
There was eyewitnesses to this account.
Wow. I mean, Dr. Ford from the top of the show also passed a polygraph. So I don't know what to make of that. All right, listen, Calvin, I appreciate you coming on and telling us your story. And I wish you the best of luck in life. It sounds like you're doing just fine. And, you know, if they ever come get you again, tell them to come visit Waters World, all right? I'm ready to receive them.
You know, if anybody has a doubt about the credibility of the story, they'll read the book, Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter, My Story, Calvin Parker. It's documented in there. Every little thing in that book is documented.
All right.
Do you ever wonder what might lie out there deep in space? Do you want to believe we're not alone, that somewhere in the universe, intelligent life may actually exist?
Our next guest says there is life out there. It does exist. Dr. Charles Hall says he spent 2 years working with extraterrestrial beings during his time with the American military. He claims the US military has actually been in contact with alien species for years. And Dr. Charles Hall is here to explain, along with his wife Marie, live from what Bugs Bunny used to call Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, thank you both for your time. Terrific to have you with us. Firstly, Charles, can you tell us your story of how you managed to come into contact with these beings as you worked with the military?
I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I enlisted in the Air Force in July 1964, and I was trained as a weather observer. And I was sent to Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, outside Las Vegas, Nevada. And for 2.5 years, I was sent up to the gunnery ranges up at Indian Springs, and I was given a clearance to allow me to go anywhere in Dreamland as long as I was alone. I discovered that up there at the north end of Indian Springs Valley, which you can see on the map in the state of Nevada here in America, that there was a base which the U.S. Air Force maintained for a group of extraterrestrials who were tall and white. And I, as the duty weather observer, was allowed to go up there, or they were allowed to come down to where I was. And the interaction took place over more than 2 years.
Wow.
During those 2 years, I also came across, I also interacted to a lesser extent with the Roswell Greys, and I've also personally talked with the extraterrestrials that I call the Norwegians with 24 teeth, who come here from a very nearby star, perhaps Bernard star. And my experiences, my presentations, my books are unique because I'm the only person that I know of that was allowed to interact with the extraterrestrials, the tall whites, for more than 2 years.
So 3 different species of aliens you're talking about there, Charles?
Yeah, can you describe what they look like,
Yes, that is
what they
correct.
were like?
Well, I'll start with the tall whites. They're thinner than we are, and they're very frail. Throughout most of their life, they are the same height as I am, 5'11", but they live 10 times longer than humans. They live 600 or 800 years.
Wow.
But they don't age the way we do. When they get to be equivalent to a human of about 40 years, that means when they're about 400 years, they start growing again instead of aging as humans.
Right.
And then they go, and this continues, and so that by the time they get to be 600 or 800 years old, they're very tall, 8.5, 9, or 10 feet tall. But this is not necessarily good because their skeleton grows more than their internal organs. And so there comes a time after 600 or 800 years when their skeleton, their body is tall, but their organs can't support it.
Support the
at
organism.
which time they die a natural death, because they're just flesh and blood creatures like we are. If they injure themselves, it takes them 10 times longer to heal up than a human.
Yes.
So there's a trade-off.
Yeah, right. They still look fresh as a daisy when they go, though. They look like Tilda Swinton. Hey, just quickly, you had them there. You were working with the aliens on any particular project, or was the military working with the aliens on a particular project? Was there, I don't know, technology sharing or, you know, botanical cross-fertilization?
The U.S. Air Force, and I'm speaking of the mid-1960s, was willing to give them anything they asked for. When I first met them, I was very afraid of them, and every human I met when you come across them out in the desert was naturally very afraid of them, and they were even more afraid of us. It's like running into a gorilla in the wild where the gorilla is on his home ground. So they had to go through a process of becoming used to being around humans before they could take part in the technology transfer program. I, as the weather observer, was the test human. As an enlisted man, I was expendable.
This has been another strange but true story. Tell us what you thought of this story in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and sign up for notifications by clicking the bell in the upper right corner to make sure you know when the next video drops to the channel. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Steve White. Until next time.